Hello everyone, welcome to episode 3 of the Resistance Rundown, our weekly Star Wars show where we talk movie news, television series, books, novels, anything in between.
Just everything.
Unsurprisingly, we're going to be starting off talking about The Last Jedi once again.
Who knew? Who knew? Coming out December 15th, in case you guys forgot. Ha! Like we could ever forget.
Yeah,
Just saying.
as if.
All right, we had a new behind-the-scenes video drop earlier this week. Had a lot of Rian Johnson just kind of talking about how surreal it is to be on a set that he, loved as a kid. Obviously, still loves as an adult. We had some comments from Mark, from Daisy, from Carrie, which is always a pull on the heartstrings whenever that happens.
Yeah.
And so, we're just going to talk a little bit about our standout moments. It's about 2 minutes long. It's not like it was a terribly long behind the scenes.
No, and it was kind of neat because it was kind of a kind of piggybacks on some of the behind the scenes footage that we saw.
Yeah, at Star Wars Celebration.
At the reel. But it did have some longer glances at some of the set, particularly what we think is Snoke's throne room.
Oh, that beautiful red and
very
so menacing.
looking.
Yeah.
We got another look at kind of like looks like a cave kind of setting.
There was some kind of creature that we saw like just a moment of. I meant to go back and look at it.
I think that is, I forget what the name of it is, but I think that's the horse thing on Canto Bight. I can't remember what the name of it is at this very moment.
That's okay.
But there was some stuff that leaked out early of like Finn and Rose potentially riding it or something.
See, every so often I miss something, so that's what he's here for.
But we got what was very interesting. We have there was a photo. I don't know if you saw this or not. That I can't remember if it was USA Today, Entertainment Weekly, that released of Luke. Kind of at the bookshelf.
Yeah.
And what I thought was interesting is his outfit choices are very similar to Kylo's from the first. Like the thread patterning and kind of the layered look with a belt.
Yeah,
I just thought that was kind of
just different colors.
Different colors,
not all black.
and not all black. But I thought it was an interesting potential parallel. I have no idea if that was meant to be that way, but
right,
like most things. It does have some sort of connection.
Yeah. We also did get a sneak peek of Benicio del Toro in that behind-the-scenes reel. We've seen several shots of Finn in the First Order outfit. Mm-hmm. And in that shot, it had Kelly Marie Tran as Rose in there as well, and Benicio.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a nice...
So all three of them are in that.
Any of the trailer stuff, and neither was Laura Dern's Emelyn Haldo, so it was kind of nice to see a little glimpse of that in the behind-the-scenes trailer.
Yeah, so obviously he's going to be part of that breaking into the First Order ship or base or wherever they're... I think it's going to be a ship.
Yeah, it kind of looks like it's going to be a ship.
Yeah, so at least we kind of know maybe where his character is coming into play.
Yeah. Definitely. And where he's going to fall, potentially, unless he betrays them, which is always a possibility. Yeah.
It was also cool, too. Rian Johnson, you can just tell, is such a likable guy.
I know.
I did appreciate his moments. I forget how it was phrased exactly, but it was something of, like, moments of awe and then being, like, crap your pants moments.
Yeah.
Like, I appreciated his, candor and just kind of...
It was very honest.
Yeah, it was. I feel like that's what every fan of Star Wars would be like if you had a chance of directing one.
Absolutely.
So if you haven't had a chance to check out the video, it's definitely worth your time.
Yeah, it is. And there's going to be a ton of stuff coming out between now and December, and some of which we will not watch out of wanting to keep some sense of mystery to the film.
Yeah.
But this is definitely worth a look.
Yeah,
so.
I'm a fan of behind-the-scenes reels anyway.
Yes,
so.
Very much. We also had some early tracking come out for The Last Jedi. Estimates right now for the opening box office weekend is at $215 million. Not expected to pass TFA, which, to be fair, it would be really hard to compete with just that reawakening of Star Wars after years of not having one, of thinking that we never have another Star Wars movie.
Especially not involving the original cast again.
Yeah, especially that. And then with the way the prequels were very mixed on receiving, you just didn't know. Yeah. So TFA ended up making $247.9 million on its opening weekend. So they're expecting it to be about 30 million short of that.
Yeah.
Not that that's anything to snuff at. However, if it does make that, it'll unseat Jurassic World. As number 2 highest box office weekend, they had 208 million.
I don't think they're going to have any trouble unseating Jurassic World.
No. I think it might actually be a little higher than 215, though.
I think it really comes down to what the reaction to the film is.
Yeah.
I think if it's as amazing as everybody thinks it is so far, I think it'd be possible to go in between the two numbers. I would not be shocked at like a 225, 230 million.
Yeah, that's what I think too.
Debut. I think 215's easy.
I think 215 is almost lowballing it just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean that's a very predictable bet, which sounds crazy because most movies would love to have a $250 million total run, much less opening.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think these estimates are fine. I wouldn't be surprised if they go higher.
Yeah, me either. And at the end of the day, it'll still make over $1 billion, and
yeah, it's not going to be hurting for money.
It'll make Disney just a little bit of money.
That's right, just a little bit.
No big deal. All right. Well, our last story about The Last Jedi actually centers around Poe, who we haven't talked about very much at all. But in an official Japanese Star Wars website, they released some short character bios for all of them. And under Poe's, part of what it said was that while he is a brave and skilled pilot, both the First Order and the Resistance alike are starting to fear his dedication to the war effort. What do you think about that?
It's an interesting statement. I think it's going to be curious what they do with this character. There was some stuff that came out several months ago about his relationship to Leia, and like that he and Leia have some pretty intense scenes supposedly in the film. And so I'm wondering if maybe Poe carries it too far, or sometimes or something. I think Star Wars is always kind of playing with that idea of fighting the right way and like doing war the right way. And even we're going to talk about Rebels in a few minutes, but Rebels particularly has been talking about that there's right and wrong ways to fight. And so I think there's always that balance and struggle.
There's always that tension.
Yeah, and that Star Wars always deals with to a certain degree. But I think that may be something they play with Poe's character, and I think it would be fitting for his character.
Yeah, I think so. It was really funny. I was actually reading some stuff, and we don't necessarily do the comic books, not for lack of want, just more of lack of funds and time. But one of they had a series on Poe following the release of TFA, put out by Marvel, of course, and in one of those issues, Leia gets onto him for his recklessness and wanting him to develop more wisdom and everything. And so I think since you've already kind of laid the groundwork for that in the comics, of course it would be an ongoing struggle. It's not like he just learns the lesson, he keeps on going. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I think, he has a strong hatred for the First Order. I think it's easy to take it too far.
Yeah, absolutely.
The only question is who's going to be impacted by him taking it too far. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's going to be the curious part.
Like, if he does something that affects Kylo, I'm not saying killing him, but, like, if he ends up harming him in some way, while Leia knows what side he's on, that's still her son.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think that could be an interesting development for sure. Absolutely. All right, well, that's it for The Last Jedi. There are really no updates on Han Solo. Solo, a Star Wars story this week, but we did have a couple of stories drop about episode 9. The first is that J.J. Abrams recently talked about how it will push the narrative boundaries of the series and offer something new to audiences. He was on a radio interview with BBC, I believe, with Michael Giacchino as well, and this is his whole statement. He said, "Well, it's certainly something that I'm aware of now, working on episode 9, coming back into this world after having done episode 7. I feel like we need to approach this with the same excitement that we had when we were kids, loving what these movies were. And at the same time, we have to take them places that they haven't gone, and that's sort of our responsibility. It's a strange thing. Michael's worked on things like Planet of the Apes and Star Trek and Star Wars, and these are the things of dreams. Yet we can't just revel in that. We have to go elsewhere." And it should also be noted that Abrams and Terrio both kind of made comments about Episode 9 will be infused with thematic prequel elements at all and kind of tie all of that together.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, what are you thinking about that? Tying into the prequels, just some of what he's saying here about going elsewhere.
I think it's interesting. There was a lot of, I felt like, unneeded backlash.
Yeah.
Whenever they announced JJ as Episode 9's director. That's no secret. Obviously, I enjoyed The Force Awakens. Does it have issues? Sure. Does every movie of some kind have an issue? Yeah. And but I thought JJ had the incredible task of trying to get people back in the fold with Star Wars, trying to get people that maybe were not fans of the prequels, back into the fold. You had Disney buying it. There was a lot of, eyes and ears on Disney. It was going to be different because Disney owns it and all this kind of stuff. So there was just a lot of things
going on.
There's a lot of things to consider for this movie, and I thought he'd knocked it out of the park, introducing us to a whole new wave of characters that I think are going to be just as beloved as Mark and Carrie and Harrison. And so it's nice too because I think JJ listens to stuff. I think he listens to fan chatter. I think he listens to people's concerns. We've seen that in Star Trek. We've seen it in other things, and so I don't think 9 is going to be some by the books kind of thing. I think he's taking it seriously, and I think there was no reason to think that he wouldn't. As far as tying into the prequels, I'm kind of cautiously excited because there are definitely things about the prequels that are worth mentioning and worth going to.
The material and story of the prequels.
Yeah, the story of the prequels has never been a problem for me. It's mostly revolved around performances and just dialogue.
Weird stuff.
So I think when you have somebody like JJ and you have somebody like Chris Terrio come in to write it, I don't necessarily have to worry about super clunky dialogue.
No.
So I think as long as stuff like that, performances I don't worry about at all. They have world-class talent in all these movies. So, I'm cautiously excited. I think if they can bring some stuff from the prequels story-wise that was really intriguing, then I think Episode 9 could be really good.
Yeah, definitely. I think it also begs the question of, is this going to be the end of the Skywalker saga? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If they're kind of making it say, oh, everything's going to tie together, okay, well, is that the end of the Skywalkers as we know it? Or, we just don't, obviously we don't know because we haven't seen Episode 8 yet, and Episode 9 is still 2 years away. So, that's an interesting theory that I think has been thrown around ever since they have made those statements. I think that Rian Johnson is already taking Star Wars in a different place. I think he's already going to kind of turn it on its head just based on some early things that we're hearing. Mm-hmm. And I think that after you do that, JJ knows, and he's already read the script and everything, he knows that you have to continue in that. You can't. He had the job of keeping it safe and starting the story out differently, but also with some themes and story beats that we're very familiar with, you can't deny some of the similarities between The Force Awakens and A New Hope. But I think that, he's going to go pretty far beyond that. I think Rian Johnson's kind of paving the way for Star Wars to evolve and for it to be different.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
So, I'm excited, though.
Yeah, I am too. Very much.
So, for our last bit of Episode 9 news, in a recent interview with THR, Rian Johnson commented that he would not be involved with Episode 9 in any way. He said it is JJ's movie, that JJ and Terrio will be writing it and continuing on with what they set into motion in The Last Jedi. Surprised?
No. I think, they offered the job to Ryan.
He said no.
And
rightly so. He's worked his behind off.
Absolutely.
Trying to get
I think
Last
people
Jedi.
that were irritated about it don't understand the kind of toll that movies like this brings on.
Well, it's one of those things too. Like, you didn't see JJ jumping to direct episode 8 after episode 7. You know what I mean? Like, he said once he read the script that, man, I wish I could direct this because this is awesome. But he wasn't jumping back into the director's chair because it's an exhausting process.
It's an exhausting process. It's a very long process, and it's not even just whenever they start filming. I mean, you have a year of pre-production. You have, I mean, there's a lot of work that goes into all this stuff, and it's not like they're there for a few hours a day. I mean, it's very time intensive work.
Yeah.
And so, I respect Ryan's choices on that, and I don't think it's surprising he's not involved with 9. I think everybody kind of figured that out after he said that he wasn't going to be directing it. I'm just ready to see the movie. I think Ryan is going to have done a really great job. And I hope he gets the rest and the recuperation, that he deserves at this point.
Yeah, I definitely think that he will.
Yeah.
So with that, we are moving right along to the small screen, talking about television, which of course right now revolves around Star Wars Rebels on Disney XD. So it returned this Monday with another 2-part episode, In the Name of the Rebellion, parts 1 and 2.
Yep.
And in these episodes, Ezra and the Ghost crew attempt to hack an Imperial communication station. And of course, it doesn't go quite to plan as things normally go.
Fashion.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you haven't watched these 2 episodes and you plan to do so, just skip forward on your little thing on YouTube about 5 or 6 minutes. And pick back up with our book discussion because we are going to go into some spoilers here. So, first thing, general thoughts about the episode.
I thought these might be 2 of my favorite episodes of all the seasons.
Right.
I think we're getting into a point that we're getting very close to Rogue One. We're getting right on the heels of New Hope territory. Mm-hmm. They're moving at such a pace with this season that it's not been like other seasons.
No.
Just we're what, 4 episodes in. We've got a really big, storyline. Sort of wrap up on Mandalore, or at least wrap up to enough ability for now. I thought the first episode was great. I thought the second episode was Saul. You get to see some of that more militant, extremist side of the rebellion that Saul has, and I think it fills in some gaps on Rogue One that I think, I didn't have a problem with the way they did it in Rogue One, but I think that it fleshes some things out and makes some more sense. It gives some more gravity to Saul's character and just the general way they were doing things.
I think it even ups up the ante some for what they did pose Jin to do in Rogue One about approaching him and trying to get to him about Bodhi and about the pilot and everything. Sorry about that, guys. Just scared myself hitting the microphone. That, you knew it was kind of a big deal just because we knew a little bit about Saul, and we knew from the story itself that he was
an extremist.
Too extreme for the rebellion. But after this, you definitely get why, and you definitely get the tension that exists between he and Mon Mothma and other leaders of the rebellion because of the way that he's going about things.
Yeah, everything that's going on with the rebellion, I think, is the most intriguing part for me, because there's a really great moment between he and Mon Mothma in this episode that's pretty tense.
Yeah,
and
it's
not something you get to see Mon Mothma like, in that kind of, she's irritated. And it's not something you don't ever get to see that in the series, and she's a pretty level-headed individual.
I mean, even in the book, she's definitely portrayed as that way. Like, you don't get a lot of...
She doesn't get riled up all that often.
No, she's not shaken easily.
And it's interesting because, Saul kind of calls right on some things, and some of those things that you could argue are worthy to be called out on. Other things, he's just kind of stirring the pot. But I thought it was all a very intriguing scene.
Yeah.
I thought... with Saul kind of turning on Ezra and Sabine, you kind of had some interesting stuff there. It was definitely, to me, it had moments of a lot more serious tone than what some Rebels episodes are.
This has definitely been 2 of the most serious episodes I think that we've seen from Rebels in general. Also, just throw out there, like, I really love that we did see that Sabine has rejoined the Ghost crew.
Yeah.
That was kind of a question at the end of episode 2. Is she going to go back with Ezra and Kanan, or is she going to stay on Mandalore even after relinquishing the Darksaber? And she left.
Yeah.
And I was glad to see that, for sure. But yeah, we were talking about just our general thoughts about the episode, but as we've already kind of started delving into, there have also been just like a lot of important things that happened in this episode. Notably that between Mon Mothma and Saw Gerrera, and just the two different sides. And how that whole theme of how we fight.
Yeah.
Is so prevalent. I think will continue to be prevalent throughout all of season 4. And even at the end of the episode, like, as much as Ezra struggles with this, and as much as he questions whether they are going about the right way, like, he makes the right call at the end with Saul, and he and Sabine. It's one of those things where, what's the point in fighting if there's not people that you save at the end of the day? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're not helping out the same people that you're swearing that you're going to. And so I kind of like that was where it falls down. It doesn't take away all of his doubts, and it doesn't take away, he asks, some important questions throughout the episode, and even at the end, even whenever they've rescued, some of these scientists and engineers and stuff that the Empire has taken, there's still this question of, are we going to be able to actually defeat this enemy? At this point, they don't know what the weapon is either, which of course,
well, it's
we
also
have
cool.
the benefit of the audience of knowing exactly what is about to be unveiled.
You have Jeddah referenced in the episode, which is cool. It's also the first time where we're seeing some of these large, like, massive
huge
kyber crystals. And it's cool if you've read Catalyst, the book, which is like the book before Rogue One. It leads you right into Rogue One. If you haven't read it, I really encourage you to. I think it makes Rogue One an even better movie. You get a lot more kind of through the Ursos and all that, but it gets into some of the kyber crystal stuff, and it's just intriguing. And so I think finally seeing some of that depicted, and even in an animated show, is very cool, because we've never really seen any of that in the films.
And even seeing the destructive capability of a kyber crystal, like
of just one,
of that size. Obviously, like, we know that they're used in the lightsabers, all that kind of stuff, but now you begin to understand why.
Well, and they tease with Ezra hearing it, and that kind of teases into some of this other stuff that they've set up in, like, the Ahsoka novel and some of these other things that, it starts, people kind of giving them some crap about it, but I think it's cool. It kind of gets into, like, the Harry Potter wand kind of, like, there's, it chooses you kind of thing. But there's always been some of that kind of stuff. But
there's a mystical side to the Force and everything. So
it doesn't bother me. I actually kind of thought it was kind of a cool part of the episode. So and we have a female Death Trooper, so that was kind of a neat little moment.
That was really cool. Just because, in the novels we're starting to see more and more, and even like with Battlefront and stuff, like females in the Empire. So it was kind of neat to see one as a Death Trooper.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
So, the other thing I think I was just going to talk about is you see this tension within the rebellion, which we already saw in Rogue One, just with, like, no one wanting to actually go into open war. And that's still, obviously this comes before Rogue One, so that's definitely where they're all at right now. They want to avoid it, but at the end of the day, people like Mon Mothma know that there's going to be no way to avoid it in the end. No matter how much they want to fool themselves into thinking it right now, or just kind of want to be disillusioned with reality, they want to be able to fight it a certain way, which you understand, but at some point they're going to have to get their hands dirty if they're going to actually defeat the Empire. So there's definitely that tension. It runs wild.
Absolutely.
So this 4th season picks back up on Monday. Once again, another 2 episodes. This time it's not a technical 2-parter in name. Episode 5 is called The Occupation, and they just released a new clip for it. Have a little tease between Kanan and Hera.
It's a great little moment.
Check that out. And then episode 6 is called Flight of the Defender, which was the clip for that was actually Thrawn. Grand Admiral Thrawn is back.
That's right.
At a base, at an Imperial base, coming to see TIE fighters, like the improved TIE fighters, and Sabine is actually in the TIE fighter. So we'll see how that all goes at that point.
Yeah.
And then it also looks like Ezra and the Ghost crew are going to be headed to Lothal, which is where I would imagine where this base is probably at, based on what we're seeing.
I think you're going to... I think, if I remember correctly, Filoni said the first 6 episodes were kind of wrapping some storylines up, and then the rest was going to heavily focus on Ezra.
Yeah.
And so I think, obviously, Lothal is going to have a big part of that as well.
Yeah, which Lothal is occupied right now, so that is very much where they're going to be at in episodes 5 and 6. And so we're going to be in Lothal a lot, so here we go.
That's right. If you haven't seen the clips, you can check them out on Star Wars YouTube page.
Yeah, both of them are there.
Yeah. The Hera and Kanan is a very Empire Strikes Back-esque moment.
Yes, it is.
So I really, really loved it.
Yeah, it was great.
So with that, I guess we'll move into our next topic of the bookshelf. And from that, I'll let Molly carry it away from the next book.
I'll do my best. No, I did get in from a certain point of view, so I am working my way through those 40... That's right, count them, 40 short stories. I've gotten about 3 or 4 stories into it just because it's kind of been a busy week. But so far, so good. I'm going to wait to kind of review it until I am done with it, because I'd rather talk about some of my favorite stories at the end once I've read them all.
Yeah.
But today, I'm going to recommend a book that's actually been out for a while. But I think it would actually be a great book to start with if you're going to start reading the Star Wars novels, and that is Lost Stars. It's by Claudia Gray, who I'm very certain is the best author in the Star Wars universe at the moment, and the story follows 2 young people who are recruited by the Empire in their journeys, and it spans before the original trilogy all the way into the really post... Return of the Jedi, getting into the Aftermath series, which we'll talk about on a different day. So I'm not going to say a lot because I don't want to give it away, but this book was really neat and it's really different. I feel like everyone I talk to that reads the books, this one's in their top 3, no matter who they are. Yeah. And I think it's because it's really the first time that you get the Imperial perspective, and you get the perspective from people who the Empire actually seemed to be helping their planet whenever they first started. And I would argue did help their planet for a short amount of time until, of course, resources became exhausted and all that kind of stuff, which was typical on most of those worlds. And so it's definitely through a different set of eyes. Definitely almost a wide-eyed innocence walking into the Empire in the Imperial Academy, and they're tested in different ways, and one of them begins to see how some of this is a little crooked and the other one doesn't. And so it's very, very interesting. So Lost Stars, definitely worth a read. I would recommend it if you haven't read anything to at least read it. And it's also kind of nice to see mentions of Leia in the book. She doesn't factor heavily into it, but she's mentioned, and you hear about Luke Skywalker, but once again, he's not a part of it. You're actually on 2 different people who are not a part of that original cast. That's kind of cool, to expand the Star Wars universe just a little bit while still keeping with the timeline that we know. And then I forgot to look up which novel it is that's coming next, but stay tuned because there is one coming out about Luke soon. I think it's in November that it actually drops. I need to read up again. And then there's also a novel about Canto Bight that should be dropping in the next few weeks. So I'll give you actually dates next week because I forgot to look them up.
Yeah, some of the really early reviews for the Luke book have been really positive too.
Yeah.
So looking forward to that. Well, as we shift into our next section, which is Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, not a ton of stuff to report this week, but there are a few interesting things. There are some more walls that have been erected around Galaxy's Edge in Hollywood Studios. particularly around the Grand Avenue area, which they opened up a few weeks ago, but then they've kind of been restructuring traffic around to kind of finish other elements.
Yeah.
You can also see that the tunnel that you're going to go through to walk into Star Wars Land is also coming along pretty quickly, so that's always exciting to see. There's been a few milestone permits filed for the Battle Escape attraction, architectural, electrical, all the kind of stuff that you would expect for an attraction like that.
The non-exciting
the practical things. But the other interesting thing is that who they're partnering with, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly, the Nassau company. The Nassau company.
I said Nassau, but I don't actually know. That was for the scenic something?
This is for some of the
scenery?
scenic sets. So I'm assuming some of the rock work and probably some of the thematic elements.
Ornamentation, I think, was the other fancy word they had in the permit.
But what's interesting is those are the people that worked on both the Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man and the Harry Potter world at Universal. So, and if you haven't been to the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, it's incredible.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, don't get me wrong, like, we are hardcore Disney fans, but Molly and Jonathan are also hardcore Harry Potter fans, and what Universal has done with the Harry Potter park,
it's
it was the first to really do that immersive experience.
Yeah, I mean, we
I mean?
we went to the Hogsmeade whenever it opened, but whenever Diagon Alley opened, we went like the opening week, and I was just blown away.
Yeah.
So it's exciting to see that those folks are working on Star Wars Land, because I think they knocked it out of the park with Harry Potter.
Mm-hmm.
So I would expect no less from this.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and this is not directly related to Galaxy's Edge, but they're also adding a crate section to Star Tours, which is the existing Star Wars ride at both Hollywood Studios and at Disneyland. I think that is November 17th.
Yep.
That those
new footage
updates
goes in.
go in. So, kind of like last time, or not last year, but the year before last with Force Awakens, they had a Jakku section that was added with Finn and I think BB-8 and a couple other characters. So I'll be looking for something very similar with this. And then not really related to Galaxy's Edge, but just something to be talking about. I guess when you start like a new game section. With Battlefront 2 coming out. But a new trailer dropped for Battlefront 2 last Thursday. I thought the trailer looked great. I'm actually more excited for the like single story mode of Battlefront 2 than I really am any of the other features. So they're really setting up Ina Versio to be this very interesting character. And I'm actually curious to see how it leads into this next trilogy, because I definitely have been teasing that it kind of goes from right after Return of the Jedi leading up into current events. So, what did you think of the trailer?
I loved it. Well, I mean, the first time I got that little teaser with the little thing coming up that has Emperor Palpatine's face going on, I was like, oh, what the heck is this? Just because I think, having read the Aftermath, most of the Aftermath series, I'm still finishing the last one, there's a lot of confusion after the Emperor is gone. A lot of rumors that he's not actually dead, so they can try to maintain this appearance of control. And so I thought it was really neat that she is privy to the information that he is indeed gone.
Yeah.
Because not everyone in the Empire knew that.
No.
And then that he had this contingency plan in place. So that whole concept is so neat to me. And you have to know, I am not a big gamer. I'm not a big story mode person. Like, Jonathan played Uncharted at one point, and I just, like, sat there, like, worried that he was going to fall off the side of the cliff, which is stupid because it's not real, and he gets however many lives, to keep on going. But, like, it gives me anxiety to watch things like that. But this single story mode, I'm probably going to have to fight him over, because I'm very intrigued by this. I think her character is really cool. And I haven't gotten to read Inferno Squad yet, but it's definitely going to happen before we get the game.
Yeah.
So, her character, though.
It's going to be something else.
Yeah. I always thought Ray Sloan was really neat, but I think that she's even going to eclipse Ray Sloan for me on the Empire side of things.
Definitely. So that leads us into our last section, which is Today in Star Wars History 101, which today is on October 25th, 2007. The U.S. Postal Service releases a 41-cent commemorative Yoda stamp. Pretty cool. Of course
they did.
It was like something like 500,000 people voted for the Yoda stamp. It was some kind of incredible number. So
it shows the power of Star Wars, everyone.
Power of Star Wars, even back in 2007.
That's right.
Well, that does it for episode 3 of the Resistance Rundown. Thanks for checking us out. If you like this video and you'd like to see more, subscribe below. Give us a like and let us know how you like the show.
Yeah, please.
If you'd like more general movie news, you can check out the Shot List, which is our regular movie podcast, and I'll include the link below for that. You can also find our movie reviews on Twitter and Instagram at ATL_movies and on AboveTheLineMovies.com. If you have a question for the show, you can always email us a question at theresistancerundown@gmail.com or any of our other social media. And lastly, you can check me out on Twitter and Instagram at BeachJD.
And I'll just add my 2 cents. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at MCBeach. So there's my short little statement
That's
at
right.
the end.
I have a paragraph at the end. Thank y'all again for tuning in, and we'll see you next Wednesday.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.